David Etale, one of the most impactful people we've ever had on this podcast. That's a name that will be heard all around the world after you listen to this episode. And it's something that I'm certain will add value to your life if you give him just an hour so that you can listen to his story. An ex-UK military serviceman, a former national football player, and a former matatu driver. I think Eli and I have had what can only be described as one of the most impactful conversations of our podcast.
The word for me is gripping. Like, at one point in the conversation, I forgot we're on a podcast, I was just where he was in the story.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to just hear a phenomenal story laced with positivity and laced with vulnerability, then this hour and a few minutes is going to do that. It's not often that you get to hear from somebody that's been to such extremes in life, from attempted suicide to drug community to now impacting people in a positive way. To live all of that in one lifetime is a lot, and he just condenses it perfectly and beautifully. We have to commend his storytelling ability as well. To condense that and then give it to us in this episode has been an absolute honor and a way to end the season.
What a way to end the season. What a way to end the season.
Incredible. So I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast.
Half as much as we enjoy making it, because we had a
ball.
ball. We had a ball.
What a season.
That's a season. That's a season, baby.
Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mantalk.ke. It is the season finale, and what a season it's been. Thank you everybody for sharing. There's been so many shares on the post on social media. Thank you for sharing with your WhatsApp group, your friends, your mom, your sisters, and your dogs. We've had a great time this season. And a few weeks and there'll be another one coming. We are back in Kofisi in Karen. We were here in episode 6 as well. We had to come back, and we hope that you'll check the links down below. And also in the middle of this video, there'll be a short clip that shows you all about Kofisi and what they have to offer. Today's a big episode, Oscar. It's a big, big episode. And I think there's some introductions that you let the guests do themselves.
Yeah.
Because the list of titles, etc., and things they do is extensive. So, David, thank you for joining us. Would you like to tell the people who you are?
First of all, thank you for having me. My name is David Etale. Former professional footballer here in Kenya. Joined the British Army. Now I'm a veteran. Motivational speaker. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool guy. Really chill.
Yeah.
Excellent conversationalist.
Color coordinated.
First of all, he's coming here with a snapback. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Hello.
And he is one of the most exciting interviews I think we are going to have, simply because he's a man who has lived many lives.
Yeah.
And David, to be honest, it's our honor to have you on the podcast. We are very, very excited to go through this conversation that we're about to have with you. Yeah. And leading up to that now is my first question.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's obviously a lot of negative swell around the topic of masculinity and what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
So the first question I have for you as an African man, former military serviceman, is what is the most positive thing that you think you have contributed to society as a man? What is the most positive quality that you have as a man that you've given to society today?
I think the first thing that I would say, naturally men are supposed to be defenders. We're supposed to protect our loved ones. We're supposed to protect, if you have a family, children. And I think for me, one thing that I came to realize that I feel like it's more impactful out there is me being myself and me showing that I also have, like, I'm vulnerable. I also speak about my mistakes so that people don't look at me like I'm this type of a person that I need to be, to live my life in a certain way. Yeah. I'm human. We all make mistakes, and I'm still trying to figure out my life as well. But by doing that, I just want to be as authentic as I can. When I'm speaking, when I'm going for these talks and things like that, when I'm speaking, people can see how genuine I am about myself.
Yeah. What's been your journey? Because obviously you're at a place where you're comfortable being vulnerable And you've mentioned some of the things you've done previously in life, football, ex-military, now motivational speaker, etc. Where's the moment where you start to be comfortable being vulnerable? What was the moment that made you shift the needle, or has it been a gradual process as you've gone along?
I think I started being vulnerable when I'd left service. But before that, when I was growing up, all I wanted to be was become a professional footballer, just like many people who've been born in the ghettos here in Kenya. And that was my dream, that was my goal. But here in Kenya, when you're playing football, you don't get paid a lot of money compared to other places outside, like for example in Europe. So my journey was, I started playing professionally for a club called Kenya Commercial Bank. And when you mention to someone that you're playing for Kenya Commercial Bank, the first thing they will be like, you're earning good money. But that wasn't the case. For us, it was, you win a match, you get 800 Kenyan shillings.
Oh.
Yeah. And you draw a match, you get 400 Kenyan shillings. And if you don't win a match, the 50 Kenyan shillings that they gave you for lunch, that's all you'll go home with.
And there was people in the stands paying?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But it wasn't people in the stands like compared to European countries where the stadium is absolutely packed.
Yeah.
And then from there, I moved from Kenya Commercial Bank, and then I went to play for Tusker Football Club. So there, at least I would earn a salary, which is around maybe 13,000 Kenyan shillings.
And this is which year?
We're talking about 2005, beginning of 2006.
Yeah, so if we adjust for inflation, maybe you're making like 20K now.
Yeah.
And
for me, that wasn't enough. So back then, I used to love fashion a lot. And one of my friends who lives in Kangemi, I knew he was a gang leader. He was a thief, and they used to rob people and stuff like that. So for me, I was quite young and naive. So he approached me one day. And remember, before that as well, when I was trying to make ends meet, I was still a part-time matatu driver.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
So not only are you a former professional footballer, former military serviceman, you're also a former matatu driver.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So what would happen is we would train in the morning and
Yeah.
I would go for my shift in the afternoon at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Wow.
just to make that extra coin. And this, when he approached me, he said, Dave, we need to talk. And he told me, I want you to be keeping certain things for me, but we'll be paying you every time we come and collect them, or anytime we bring them back. So I asked him, what are they? At first, he didn't tell me what they are, because they just bring for you a bag and they say, store this for us. So for me, the first day that we met is when he told me, actually, these are guns. I want you to be storing these guns for us, and we'll be paying you a certain amount of money. But there's some rules into this. Okay. You don't tell anyone about it. Don't speak to anyone regarding your situation, and don't open this bag.
Yeah.
No matter what you do,
Yeah,
don't
no
break
matter
those
what
rules.
you do, you don't open that bag. And so for me, I didn't actually feel like it was anything, because I didn't have a good relationship with my father. I was those type of people that I threatened to kill my dad one day, because he was trying to tell me, I think he knew what I was doing, and he was trying to tell me, no, this is not the way you're supposed to live your life. But I ignored everything.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that when your dad tried to put a stop to whatever it is you're doing, there was like a lot of friction?
That's because, you know, naturally when we are growing up as kids, when parents are telling you something, we always think that we know better compared to what they know. So I feel that's something in the society right now that needs to change. And I've realized that because I've lost both of my parents. My dad passed away when I didn't even say sorry to him. My dad passed away when every time he would call me, I've never spoke to my dad for more than 2 minutes on the phone.
Wow.
You know, that's the kind of relationship that I had with him. Yeah.
What do you think was the root of that? Like, when we just to dial it back a bit, what the relationship you had between you and your father that led you to lead into crime a little bit, because that is your accessory to crime by holding those weapons, is when it comes to the relationship between you and your father, where do you think the breaking point was?
The breaking point was quite simple. For him telling me, this is not how you're supposed to live your life,
Okay.
but you're supposed to live it this way.
Okay.
And I think for me, him trying to tell me everything that I wanted to do, even becoming a professional footballer, he was like, no, I don't want you to do that. My dad wanted me to be something else in the society. He wanted me to be academically
Yeah.
strong within myself to
Yeah.
an extent where I have a good job.
Okay.
But because I think he grew up in an era where he knew being a footballer in Kenya, there's no money. What I was doing, it wouldn't lead and take me anywhere in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think since I'm the firstborn and I was the only boy, I think he was trying to instill those qualities of being a man at a very early age.
Yeah.
And I was trying to reject everything that he was saying to me. And I think that's where our drift came in.
There's so when we're speaking, firstly, we've only got this far and your story is so captivating. A lot of the guys that reach out to us, and the reason I'm going to bring this up is because the journey you're at right now, like the point in your life you're at, is where there's an element of scarcity, which seems to have bred radical decisions and behavior because of the society you're living in, which was Kenya. Even though you're talented, you're not making enough money, even though you're doing everything legit, you're doing the matatu driving, it's still not enough money, and you've had to lean into, you know, the crime like you mentioned. So your dad tries to speak to you, it's a no. And these members of the gang say, do this, and you do it. What would have been a force in your life that would have made you make a more positive decision rather than saying yes to these guys? Because the reason I'm asking is there's a lot of guys that, especially young men in our society in Kenya, that are struggling to make ends meet. And there's a massive risk like you fell into where, because you're struggling for so long to do everything legit, when something is presented where there's a monetary gain very quickly, you think everything else is against me, why not take that path? So I want to know if you could have changed something at that moment, what would have been a strong enough force to make you stay on the straight and narrow and not take on what this man has told you to do?
I think mine would have been trusting the process of life. Because what I was trying to do at that particular moment in time, I was trying to make as much money as I can because of everything that's surrounding me.
Okay.
And that is, we are talking about, there's clubs, there's alcohol involved, there's women involved. So the lifestyle that I would see someone else living, that is the life that I want. And that's all pressure that you're bringing to yourself. So you don't even allow yourself to grow to the next level, to try and identify yourself as a man, what your responsibilities are in the society.
But some guys, it's, you know, on the other side, as you've made it to the other side, it's easy to say, trust the process, easy to say it's time. But I think it's, I don't know if like I'm thinking if I'm 16, 15, and I hear somebody say, trust the process, I don't know if I believe them. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you're like, but all the narratives I'm hearing are not saying trust the process. Somebody's still doing it and making it now. Do you see what I mean? So I feel like some guys will hear that and be like, I know I should trust the process, but 2 weeks from now, there's a concert and I can't buy a ticket.
You see, that's the same thing that's what I was talking about, you see the pressures that are surrounding us. We try and fit in to do certain things because we're seeing other people doing it. And then we try and forget that once you in your own space and you're, let's say for example, in your room or in your house, you're by yourself. So all these things, you should ask yourself, okay, so my friends are going for a concert and I have that pressure of getting that ticket. But at the same time, can I afford that ticket? So I have to try and look for ways on, even if I'm going to do something bad, to try and acquire that ticket. But once you leave that concert and you go back to your house or wherever you'll be, you ask, was it worth it?
Look in the mirror, So it starts with the person, the individual, not the external.
Absolutely. Everything that we do in life, it has to start within yourself. You know, even when someone comes and says that you need to change your ways from this to this, I can come and speak to you as many times as I can. But if you've not accepted yourself, you know, and realized that this is me, I came on this earth alone. I will leave this earth alone. No one else will go with me. Then that's the time that you'll start realizing that you need to focus on yourself and make sure that everything that you're doing is something positive out there, that if someone looks up to you, they're like, if it wasn't for David or if it wasn't for Eli or Oscar, I would have been here. And that's the joy that I get with
Yeah.
everything that I'm doing right now in life.
Right. So you regret nothing.
I don't
of that.
regret anything.
Amazing. Yeah.
So let's. I'm just processing everything you're saying very slowly. No rush.
Yeah.
So let's move from the fact that now you've been handed the guns, right? So basically, the gang member from Kangemi hands you the guns to store for him and his crew. How long did you do this?
I did it for almost 1.5 years.
So for 1.5 years, you're
1.5
making.
years.
So were you still playing the football?
Yes.
Driving the matatus?
Yes.
So it's not that they were paying you enough to live the life that you wanted. It's just they were just giving you.
Extra.
They were giving me extra money. And for me, playing football and dressing the way I was and doing all those other things, is just to cover up me being someone who's storing guns for thieves.
And you're doing this conscientiously.
Yes.
So it affected your conscience. You knew. You knew.
Yeah.
So what put a stop to it? And how did you get out of the life? Because that's another conversation.
What put a stop to it, I would say, is, I think, first of all, I would say it's God.
Yeah.
Because there is someone who came up to me who was a CID, and he approached me. And I remember that day I had just finished training. I was going for my shift at 2 p.m. And he said to me, today you're not driving the matatu. And he said to me, I know what you're doing. So I didn't know one of the guys had actually been caught. So he was actually snitching and saying everyone who's involved and who's keeping this, who's doing this.
Wow.
So my name came up. And so this CID guy, he has been watching me playing football for a long time. So what normally happens is once we finish the season, we normally have local tournaments. So where we go to somewhere like Kangemi, or we go to somewhere like Jericho, or you go to somewhere like Ziwani, where you get Premier League players mixing up with the young Turks in the hood, and then we form a team. So it's like we are playing a tournament, and then at the end of the tournament, there's a prize money that needs to be won.
Yeah.
So that money, we get it now, but we share it, most of it, to the young guys who are coming up.
Yeah. Not to interrupt you, but we have an international audience. In Kenya, we have the Kenya Premier League.
Yeah.
And this is all these places he's mentioning, Ziwani, Jericho, are all, I'd say at that time, their constituencies, or for other countries, provinces. So each province has a team.
Yeah.
And that's how they used to play. Just to contextualize, please, not to interrupt.
Oh, yeah, you've explained it better,
Yeah.
So this guy used to come and watch all these football matches. So he told me, look, my cousin applied to join the British Army online. I want to take you to the cyber, and you apply. And remember, I've never sat down in front of a computer before, and I didn't even know what to do.
So the CID, so CID is our criminal investigation department.
Yeah.
An agent of the CID came to your game and picked you up from the game and said, listen, you're not driving any matatus today. You're going to apply to Jesus.
Wow.
Okay.
And then we went. He did everything for me. And he said to me, make sure you check your email within 3 days, which I didn't check. And then I met him the 4th day, and he's like, have you checked your email? I said, no. So when I checked my email and found that they've responded to me, and they've because you put your profile there. So you say, so for me, I think it happened so quick because I was physically fit. They would see that I'm a professional footballer. So it was quite easy for them to recruit me. So within 2 weeks, I was in the UK.
What did you tell your family was your reason for being conscripted to the UK Army at the time? Because clearly it's based on external circumstances and circumstances really outside of your control. But you have to play a role so they don't know what you were doing previously. So what did you tell your family and friends? Because you have a network. And the matatu culture, matatu is public transport system, so these are vans that we use here in Kenya for public transportation, is that you have friends who you work with every day. You have football players, you have the coach. What did you tell them was your reason behind it?
Actually, I didn't tell anyone about anything. The only person who knew what I was doing was my late dad.
Ah, okay.
He's the only person who knew what I was doing. And I think it's because of, as parents, they normally have this kind of instincts where they know whether you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong. And so my dad was in the NYS back in the days.
National Youth Service.
Yeah. So he's the one who knew. And it was quite funny because when I went to tell him that if he could help me buy a ticket to go to the UK, he didn't believe me. So I had to give him all the letters that I'd received of me being accepted to go to the UK and join the British Army. And he said, let me have all the papers. So I didn't know he actually called the office back in the UK just to confirm
It's all legit, yeah.
that this is legit. That's because of he lost trust in me. I used to steal money from him. I used to do so many things that if I sit now today and I talk about it, I feel bad as a person. But at the same time, I don't regret because that's my journey that I had to pass through to get to where I am today.
I hear that.
On this part of the journey, I want us to pause again. There's a lot of identity shifting that happens.
Yeah.
From being a young prospect that can play football at a high level to being somebody involved with gangs to being now called a soldier. I want to know about how your identity shifted, how you managed that, because those are three completely different people.
Yeah.
The person that says I'm a professional football player to say a girl gets a different response to somebody that says I'm an army man to a girl, or even to your peers. How did that transition go for you? Firstly, changing country and being a completely different version of David to different people as you moved along. That identity for you, how was that?
It was tough because remember, first of all, I didn't have a passion of joining the British Army. I feel like I didn't want to leave Kenya at that particular moment in time because everything was happening for me. I was storing the guns. I was getting 35,000 Kenyan shillings.
Oh, okay, that's more than what you were getting.
Yeah, that's a lot of money
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
That's nearly, the figure is actually, if you're making 15,000 from football, and then you said 3,000 from that's 18K. So 35,000 is nearly double what he was making with both roles.
Yeah.
And then you can add the income that I used to get from now playing for Tusker, because now they used to pay us monthly.
Yeah.
You add on top of that. So I would say I used to have like approximately about 55 to 60,000 Kenyan shillings a month.
Yeah, that's not a bad income.
At a young age,
At a very young age. So for me, the shifting was really tough. And it got to a point where when we started training back in the infantry school, we started the training about 124 people and we finished about 21 or 24 people.
Wow.
The rest dropped out.
What made you stay in the 21? Because you've gone there without passion. It's a very rigorous exercise.
Yeah.
It's a new country, new culture. You've left your family behind.
Yeah.
What now gave you the impetus to stay in the army?
So what normally happens is any country that has been colonized by the British, they automatically become the Commonwealth country.
Yeah.
So we have other African countries that we were training with together. So I had a friend of mine, he's called Ben. He was a fisherman back in Ghana. And I remember we did this training, it's called the bayonet training, where they wake you up around 2 a.m. I did my training when it was winter. It's absolutely freezing. And there's something that when you're doing this training, they took us to like a small river. It's kind of like a small river where when you look on top, it's ice. And they would shout grenade. So when they shout grenade, you have to dive in. Jeez. So I did that training and we did it for like about 4 or 5 hours. By the time we were going back to our rooms, I was like, no, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So my friend was like, David, try and think about it. My Ghanaian friend was like, you're from Kenya. We've got all this far. Why do you want to give up now?
Yeah.
Think about the things that you were doing before. And that just sunk into me, and I said, I'm not quitting. I'll just carry on with this. This is what life has presented me with. I will take this new journey and run away with it.
So what essentially you're saying is, finally, the cost to your conscience for storing those weapons.
Yeah.
Because if you I have a feeling that if you weren't storing those weapons and you weren't living that parallel criminal life to the one that you had, then you wouldn't be on this path where you essentially found yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? So in a way, as much as it was a negative experience, it actually contributed to who you are and the story you're giving us now. So it set you on the path.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just in terms of context, what's happening in the world right now, we're not going to get into it or get into politics, but a lot of guys, so you've mentioned the training, how rigorous it is, and then you're prepared for like service, right? A lot of guys are having to skip that step and be put on like the front line at the moment and go and fight for their country, etc. What does the training do to the mind of a person? Because I can imagine for a civilian to go from a civilian that does their normal shopping to now go on the front line and fight, there's a massive process that some people are having to jump. What does that training do to your mind as a man? Like that going into cold water, coming out and still carrying on. What was that change like mentally for you?
That change was tough. It was really tough. And you know, one thing that I normally say is, you'll be trained on how to go to war, but you'll never be trained on how to come back home.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because we get trained. I was in the infantry. Our first job is to protect the people. What we are going to do out there is not something pleasing. You're going to see a lot of things that will affect your mind. And your mind is like a camera. The things that your mind pictures and stores are things that will even go beyond your human understanding. And the reason why I say that is because up to date, I'm still suffering from war post-traumatic stress disorder, where I can't sleep at night properly. I have my own episodes. It's only that right now I've had my psychiatrist for such a long time where I know if I have these episodes, I know how to control myself. So that's why you find even a civilian who picks up a weapon and go to war, there are some who are very courageous and that's what they feel that's the right thing for them to do. But now the repercussions after is what is always unknown. You know?
With those repercussions now, I've never been able to create the linkage of people in a government office making decisions of normal people to go and physically do something. Like that connection for me, I find like insane, right? So now when you've done that and you've been serving the country that's led by individuals, your approach now to the way structure is in society, you know, leaders, etc. Do you feel any animosity towards those people that have made the decision of you having to go and fight because of decisions they've made in an office? Does that change your perspective on like government and everything, or do you still value that experience?
No, that changes everything. I'll give you an example, right? We fought in Afghanistan for almost, is it over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
The Taliban have taken over the country. We have parents and we have brothers and sisters who don't have their brothers anymore. Because that's why we were told, you're going to Afghanistan or going to Iraq to fight for a common cause. You get? So you're being told this is what you're going to do.
Right.
But now, I'm asking myself that the Taliban have taken over the country. What was our main purpose of being there in the first place?
Exactly. You know,
because if you look at right now, someone like me, I was blown up. I had serious injuries, apart from losing my leg. I have friends who are triple amputees. I have friends who've lost families. I lost my family too. You know, and all these things, they just make you get more angry
I can imagine.
with the government back in the UK because now parents are starting to question themselves. You know, we feel like we've not been protected enough.
Yeah.
And I feel that's why for me, politically, I don't like talking about anything about politics because I asked my boss one day, what are we actually doing here in Afghanistan?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't get an answer.
Yeah.
The only thing they will tell you is we are here because we are protecting the people back home.
National interest.
Yeah.
There are two quotes that often I find clash. So the first quote is, in a functioning society, old men plant trees that they will never sit in the shade in. So they know that the next generation will sit in that shade.
Yeah.
Then the other quote is, old men create wars that young people go to die in.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So those two societies are parallel to each other in our world today. That we're in a place where our leaders are making decisions that are based on, let's say, things like climate change and sustainability that guarantee the future. I want us now to move towards the conversation about you getting into active service.
And my boss was like, we need to leave. So the same road that I passed in the morning is the same road that I got blown up. That transition was really tough. And then that's the time now my war post-traumatic stress disorder was getting worse because I attempted suicide twice.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that the person who has experienced the most war, the most hostility, is the one who prioritizes love.